If anyone ever asked me, what moment made you feel like the whole world turned its back on you, I wouldn't hesitate to say, that Monday in Boston at Preston and Shaw right at 9 a.m. I'm Madison Carter, 34 years old, the marketing director of one of the most prestigious advertising firms in New England. At least that's what I thought I'd achieved. A position I'd paid for with sleepless nights, sacrificed youth, and quiet evenings eating instant noodles in the office instead of with family. For me, my career wasn't just a path to independence. It was the only key to unlocking my father's approval, Robert Carter. He never said it outright, but his eyes always held a test. Are you worthy yet? That morning, I walked into the 27th floor boardroom, clutching a thick stack of documents, my heart full of anticipation. I'd spent weeks preparing for the new quarterly strategy presentation, every detail and figure perfected. My colleagues sat around the long table, the harsh neon lights reflecting off the glass, casting a cold glow over the room. Just as I was about to stand, Martin Davis, the new vice president, a man whose gaze felt sharper than a surgeon's scalpel, spoke up. Before we begin, I have an announcement. His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was reading a script. My heart started racing. Due to restructuring, the marketing director position is being eliminated. Effective today, Madison Carter will be leaving the company. We thank her for her contributions and wish her success in the future. The room fell silent. I looked around, catching eyes that quickly dropped to the table. No one spoke. No one dared meet my gaze. A few shifted uncomfortably, as if to stand, but then sat still, pretending to be busy with a pen or their laptop screen. I felt the blood drain from my face. I'm sorry, is this a joke? My voice trembled, but I tried to stay composed. Pamela from HR slid a folder toward me. This is your severance package. You'll have insurance for the next 6 months. And, I'm sorry, we need you to leave the office today. My fists clenched, rage and humiliation rising in my throat. 6 years of dedication, countless projects, major clients brought in, all reduced to a cold folder and hollow well wishes. And behind it all, I knew, was Martin. That man didn't just want me out of the company. He wanted to shatter my belief in myself. Leaving the building, clutching a box with a few family photos and a small cactus, I felt swallowed by an endless void. Boston streets buzzed around me, but to me, the world seemed to fall silent. I drove home, clinging to a fragile hope. At least Richard would be there to listen, to comfort me. He was my husband, the man who'd once held my hand and vowed for better or worse. Maybe this loss would make him see how much I needed him. The car pulled up to our pale green shingled house, a gift my father had helped us buy after the wedding. The garage door was open. Richard was home early. That gave me a flicker of relief. But stepping inside, the house was eerily quiet. Then I heard soft laughter from upstairs. My heart sank. I climbed the stairs, and at the bedroom door, I saw him. Richard, hair disheveled, fumbling to button his shirt. From the bathroom, a young woman emerged, wrapped in the bathrobe I always used. In that moment, everything inside me collapsed. What is this? I asked, my voice hoarse. Richard didn't panic. Instead, he looked at me like a victor. If you weren't always buried in your work, if you knew how to be a real wife, I wouldn't have had to look elsewhere. I stood frozen. How long have you been betraying me? About 6 months. He shrugged, nonchalant. Jessica gives me what you never did. Priority. Then before walking out, he spat in my face. Tears streamed down, not just from betrayal, but from realizing the man who'd promised me forever now saw me as less than trash. In desperation, I drove to my parents' house in the suburbs, the place I'd once hoped would offer shelter, a hug, or a kind word. My mother Elaine opened the door. She looked at me with worried eyes, reaching to touch my shoulder. But before she could speak, my father appeared. Robert Carter, tall and imposing, his graying hair framing a face as hard as stone. Why are you here at this hour? He asked, his voice icy. Choking back sobs, I told him everything. Losing my job, Richard's betrayal. I hoped, at the very least, he'd stay silent or offer some comfort. But no. He stared at me, unblinking. Pack your bags. Failure has no place in this family. You've embarrassed me. My chest tightened. More painful than losing my job or being betrayed was being rejected by the man who gave me life. My mother tried to speak, but his stern glare silenced her. I understood. In this house, his word was law. I turned and ran to my car, driving into the night. Boston's streetlights reflected off my windshield, blurred by my tears. In less than 24 hours, I'd lost my job, my husband, and my family. That night, I checked into a small hotel near the harbor. Sitting on the unfamiliar bed, staring at the cold white ceiling, I felt like the world had erased me from its map. I wondered, has anyone else ever felt their career, love, and family turn their backs all in one day? If so, they'd understand how my heart was breaking. But in that darkest moment, a quiet voice inside whispered, "This isn't the end. This is just the beginning." If you've ever had a day when everything collapsed at once, your job, your love, your trust, you know how excruciating that loneliness is. Leave a comment sharing your experience, because sometimes knowing we're not alone gives us the strength to stand up. Have you ever found yourself in a strange room, tears falling onto a hotel pillow, wondering, what does life have left for me? That's exactly how I felt that night in room 214 of a small hotel by Boston Harbor. I sank onto the unfamiliar bed, the sheets smelling of cheap detergent, and for the first time in years, I sobbed uncontrollably. Not the stifled tears in the office bathroom or the silent ones after Richard's cruel words. This was a raw, wrenching cry, as if my body was purging the shame, anger, and loneliness. My phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. I didn't want to pick it up, dreading messages from Richard or my father's reproach, but when I saw the name, Sarah, I opened it. Her message was short. Heard what happened. Where are you? I'm coming. Half an hour later, a knock came at the door. I opened it to find Sarah, my college best friend, and Megan, my close neighbor for years. They stood there, holding bags of fast food, a cheap bottle of wine, and eyes full of concern. "Oh, Maddie." Sarah dropped the bags and hugged me tightly. "We heard. I can't believe it all hit you in one day." I cried again in her arms. Megan set the food on the table, sat beside me, and gently squeezed my hand. "You're not alone, okay?" We sat around the rickety wooden table, eating and talking. I recounted the morning meeting, Martin's cold dismissal, my colleagues' averted gazes, and finally, Richard spitting in my face. They listened silently, their eyes flashing with anger and heartache for me. "Even if you've lost everything, you still have us," Sarah said, gripping my hand firmly. "But Maddie, do you have anything to fall back on? I mean, financially, a place to stay?" Her question made my heart clench. For years, I'd hidden a secret even from my closest friends, knowing my father would control it and Richard would demand a share. But now, with two friends who'd never turned their backs on me, I let my guard down. I took a deep breath, my voice trembling. I have something, a place no one knows about." They looked at me intrigued. 3 years ago, when my grandfather passed, he left me an inheritance, a beach house in Rhode Island, and shares in a tech company called Horizon Digital. I kept it secret because I knew my father would try to control it, and Richard, he'd never let it go. I pulled out a worn letter from my wallet, one I'd kept hidden but never read aloud. My hands shook as I read, "Madison, my dear granddaughter, remember, independence is your greatest security. Never place all your trust and survival in one job, one man, or even one family. Always keep an escape route, a foundation no one can take away, because one day you'll need it to rise again." My voice broke. I remembered my grandfather's kind eyes, the mornings he took me to the shore, teaching me that no matter how fiercely the waves crashed, they always receded to make way for dawn. Sarah exhaled, her eyes shining. "Maddie, your grandfather was a visionary, and now this is saving you." Megan nodded, resolute. "Exactly. You're not empty-handed. You have a house, assets, and most importantly, you have us. This isn't the end, it's a new beginning." In that moment, I felt a strange shift in my heart. The despair was still there, but it no longer consumed me. Instead, a small, persistent spark flickered. I realized I still had a chance, and this time I'd live not to please my father or make Richard proud. I'd live for myself. I clutched the letter, whispering like a vow, "I'll rise, Grandpa." And this time, no one will define my worth. That night, the three of us sat on the hotel floor, eating pizza and making wild plans. Sarah offered to help rebuild my resume. Megan promised to come with me to Rhode Island to check out the house. They laughed, saying, "This trip will be the start of a new Madison." I smiled through my tears. For the first time in that long, dark day, my heart felt lighter. I may have lost so much, but I still had friendship, my grandfather's memory, and a new path waiting ahead. What do you think of this turning point? I hit rock bottom but discovered a secret door my grandfather left for me. If you find this story compelling and want to follow along, comment why. If it hasn't quite hooked you, comment N. Let me know your honest feelings. Do you know what makes a woman who seems utterly broken stand tall again? It's not a burst of anger, but the quiet realization that she has nothing left to lose and everything to reclaim. After that hotel night, I woke with swollen eyes but a strange new feeling: determination. I didn't want to cry or beg for pity anymore. I needed to fight back, and that meant finding someone to guide me through the legal and financial maze Richard and Preston and Shaw could use to crush me. That morning, I met Diane Hopkins, a renowned Boston divorce attorney. Her office was in a sleek glass building, neat and bright. When I walked in, Diane was waiting, her sharp eyes and prematurely silver hair exuding unshakable resolve. "I've heard," she said, shaking my hand. "He betrayed you and the company threw you out, both in one day. Not many could handle that." I nodded faintly, my hands still trembling. "I don't want to sink. I want to protect what's mine and get out as fast as possible." Diane looked me in the eye, her voice calm but weighty. "Then we'll fight. First, we end this marriage. But you need to tell me everything. Assets, inheritance, anything Richard doesn't know about." I slowly shared about the beach house and my shares in Horizon Digital. She nodded, jotting notes meticulously. "Good. Those are separate assets out of his reach. But we need proof of his infidelity and his spending habits. Gambling. Do you have anything?" I paused, then remembered strange receipts in drawers, nights Richard vanished. Diane gave a small smile. "Don't worry. The truth always finds a way out." A week later, I got an unexpected call from Zoe, my former assistant at Preston and Shaw. Her voice trembled but was resolute. "Madison, you need to know this. I kept all the emails and files proving Martin Davis deliberately pushed you out of the project. I think he was working with someone, maybe your father." I was stunned. My long-held suspicions were confirmed, but amid the sharp pain was deep gratitude. Zoe had risked herself to preserve evidence while the entire office turned away in silence. "Why did you do this?" I asked. "Because you were the only one who ever valued my work. I couldn't watch you get taken down so dirty." I gripped the hard drive Zoe handed me, feeling like I held not just evidence, but the loyalty and justice I thought were gone. Amid the chaos, another door opened. Horizon Digital, the tech startup where I held shares, sent a formal invitation. They wanted me on their marketing advisory board. I remembered my grandfather's words. "Independence is your greatest security." He'd planted this seed for me, and now it was sprouting just when I needed it. Walking into Horizon's San Francisco headquarters felt like breathing new air. Gone were the cold glass walls. Instead, an open space buzzed with ideas like crashing waves. The founders, Alex and Jordan, shook my hand saying, "We need your vision, Madison. Help us make Horizon a name no one can ignore." I nodded, my heart alight. Finally, someone believed in my true ability, not the shadow under my father's or husband's control. Then one afternoon, as I returned to my temporary apartment from the lawyer's office, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Jessica, Richard's mistress. I froze, but before I could react, she burst into tears. "He lied to me too," Jessica sobbed, her trembling hands handing me a stack of papers. "He said you two were separated. He promised to marry me. But then, I found out about his gambling debts. Tens of thousands. I was just a pawn, too." I took the papers, credit card statements, cash withdrawals from casinos. They laid bare not only Richard's betrayal, but his spiral into debt. I looked at Jessica, the young woman, eyes red and shaking with fear. In that moment, I no longer saw a rival, but another victim of his lies. I'll use these, I said, my voice steady. Not for revenge, but to end this. And Jessica, thank you for being brave. She nodded and left. Her frail silhouette made me shudder. Richard hadn't just destroyed me, he'd pulled others into his vortex. With all the pieces in place, Diane prepared the divorce papers. I signed each page, my pen strokes firm, cutting the ties that had bound me for years. That day, stepping out of the lawyer's office, Boston's air was chilly, but the late autumn sun warmed my face. I took a deep breath, my chest no longer heavy for the first time in months. Richard was now just a name in legal documents. The old company was the past. My father remained an unhealed wound, but at least I'd reclaimed control of my life. And most importantly, I'd begun a new life, quietly but resolutely, with true allies by my side. If you want to hear more stories like mine and relate to the struggles I'm facing, you can find my previous videos on this channel. They say, when you dare to stand up, the world will test you again to see if you're truly steady. And so it was. When I started regaining balance, 3 unexpected doors opened simultaneously, each leading to a confrontation I couldn't avoid. The first news came from Preston and Shaw. After a series of scandals leaked to the press, the company was in chaos. Major clients pulled out, shareholders applied pressure, and the name I'd once been proud of was now tied to scandal. One morning, I got a call from Jackson Reynolds, the CEO. Madison, we need to talk. We want you back. CMO position, full control over marketing strategy, double the salary, exceptional benefits. I paused for a few seconds. A year ago, that offer would have brought tears of joy. But today, my heart stayed calm. Thank you for the offer, I said evenly, but I've chosen a different path. I no longer belong to Preston and Shaw. The line went quiet. He pressed, "Are you sure? This is a rare opportunity." I smiled, gazing out the window at the shimmering waves of Rhode Island. I'm sure. I used to belong to numbers. Now I belong to myself. Hanging up, a wave of pride surged within me, not for refusing, but for finally having the power to say no without trembling. But the world didn't let me rest long. One afternoon, urgent knocking startled me. Opening the door, I saw Richard, my ex-husband, the man who'd spat in my face, standing there, clothes wrinkled, eyes bloodshot. "Maddie, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Jessica left me, debts are choking me, but I still love you. Give me another chance." I stood still, observing the man who'd walked out of my life without looking back, now groveling, begging. A tiny part of me ached with pity, but a larger part whispered, he chose this path. "Richard," I said, my voice cold as the night sea breeze, "if you have anything to say, talk to my lawyer." His face paled. "Are you really that cruel?" "Cruel?" I gave a faint smirk. "No, this is a boundary. For the first time, I know how to set one." He stammered, but I closed the door. From inside, I heard him pound the wood. Then his footsteps stumbled away. I stood still for a moment, hand on the door, realizing my heart no longer trembled. I'd truly let go. The greatest challenge, however, came from my father. One Sunday morning, as I read the paper on my beach house porch, a familiar black car pulled up. Robert Carter stepped out, his commanding presence unchanged, though his hair was grayer. He didn't knock, walking in as if he still owned the place. "Madison, we need to talk," he began. I invited him to sit, poured coffee, but his eyes didn't soften. "I heard you turned down Preston and Shaw. You're wasting your talent. You need to get back on track, find a worthy position, build your reputation. Don't let what I built go to waste." I took a deep breath. This was the moment I knew I couldn't avoid forever. "Dad," I said slowly, "you taught me success is everything. But have you ever asked what I really want? I exhausted myself chasing your approval, and when I fell, you called me a failure." His face darkened. "I only wanted the best for you." "The best for me? Or the perfect family image you wanted to maintain?" I met his eyes, unflinching for the first time. "I love you, but I'll never let you control my life again." The air grew thick. His usually steely eyes wavered for a moment. His lips tightened, his hand trembling slightly on the chair's armrest. My mother peeked out from the kitchen, her eyes worried, but I shook my head. This was a conversation only he and I could have. "Madison," he faltered, then fell silent. For the first time, I saw my father at a loss for words to impose. He stood, leaving the untouched coffee, and walked to the porch. Before leaving, he turned, his eyes a mix of resolve and something new, perhaps acknowledgement that I'd slipped from his control. As the door closed, I sank into the chair, my chest heaving. I'd crossed the most significant boundary of my life, saying no to my father for the first time. That evening, I stood on the balcony, the sea breeze tousling my hair. I thought of all that had passed, the devastating fall, Richard's begging, my father's silent gaze. They were fragments, and I was learning to piece them into a new picture. A premonition stirred. This wasn't over. One day my father would face the truth that his measure of success no longer bound me. And I felt clearly that this journey was leading to a public reckoning, where not just I, but he, would have to change. There are moments in life when you step onto a stage thinking you're just telling your story, only to realize you're in a larger play, where loved ones unexpectedly become both audience and key players in your healing journey. I was invited to New York to speak at the Women Build Women conference, a mentoring event gathering hundreds of female leaders, entrepreneurs, and young women eager to find their voices. When I accepted, I thought it was just a chance to share my experience, to inspire others to step out from under expectations' shadows. I had no idea this would become a turning point in my relationship with my father. That morning, I wore a simple navy dress, practicing my opening lines in the hotel mirror. My hands trembled slightly, not from lack of confidence, but from knowing I'd bare my deepest wounds to a crowd. I reminded myself, Madison, speak the truth. Only truth can touch hearts. Stepping into the auditorium, the lights blazed, the chatter vibrant. The seats were packed, faces eager. I took a deep breath, gripped the mic, and began. I'm Madison Carter. A year ago, I lost everything in 24 hours, my job, my marriage, and my family's acceptance. The room fell silent. I spoke of the day I was fired, the shock of Richard's betrayal, and the moment my father looked at me coldly, calling me a failure. My voice broke at times, but I pressed on, knowing someone in this room carried similar scars. What made me rise wasn't hatred, I said, looking at the young women in the front row. It was realizing, if I don't define success for myself, someone else will always use their ruler to cage me. Scattered applause grew into a wave. I smiled faintly, but then my eyes scanned the back of the room, and my heart stopped. There, in the dim light, was my father. Robert Carter, the man who'd never shown up to support me, sat quietly, hands clasped, eyes fixed on me. I faltered briefly. 1,000 thoughts rushed in. Why was he here? To monitor me? To control me again? Or to listen? I took a breath and continued. I spoke of my grandfather's letter, the beach house, and how I chose to stand up. I emphasized that for me, independence wasn't just financial, it was mental. When we dare to set boundaries, we don't just free ourselves, I said, my voice stronger. We sometimes give others a chance to see who they are. I finished to thunderous applause. I bowed, ready to leave the stage, when the moderator asked, "Does anyone in the audience want to share?" I froze as my father stood. He walked slowly to the aisle mic. The room turned to watch. I held my breath. His voice rang out low but trembling. I'm Robert Carter, Madison's father. I spent my life measuring my daughter by titles, by numbers. I thought success meant status. When she fell, I called her a failure. But today, listening to her, I realized I was wrong. True success is measured by compassion, by the strength to rise and keep going. He paused, his eyes meeting mine. Madison, I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry. The room erupted in applause. My eyes blurred with tears. I never thought I'd see my father admit fault, let alone in front of hundreds. I stepped off the stage, walked to him, and he opened his arms. For the first time in years, I hugged my father. No anger left, only tears. In that embrace, I whispered, Dad, I accept your apology, but on one condition. From now on, love comes with respect. No more control. He nodded, his shoulders trembling. I promise. That evening, as we left the auditorium, my younger brother William approached, his eyes shining. Sis, he said, watching you today, I realized something. I don't want to live my life in the family company's shadow. I want to be independent, build my own path. I put a hand on his shoulder, smiling. William, go for it. Don't wait for anyone's permission. I'm here, rooting for you. His eyes glistened, as if freed from years of constraint. I knew my father's change had given him courage, but my choice had given him a mirror. On the night train back to Rhode Island, I sat by the window watching city lights fade. A strange feeling rose in me, peace. Reconciliation doesn't erase the past. It accepts that we can all err and change. My father took the first step, and I gave him a chance. That was our new boundary contract. Unconditional love, but no control. Do you believe a fall can become a springboard to rise higher, farther? I didn't once. But a year after my life collapsed, I stood on my beach house balcony, listening to the waves under the sunset, and smiled. I was 35, and I was alive, stronger than ever. This year, I decided to celebrate my birthday differently. No lavish parties orchestrated by my father, no awkward evenings with Richard pretending to be happy for appearances. This time, I invited those who stood by me in my darkest days: Sarah, Megan, Zoe, and of course my family, Mom, William, and even my father. That afternoon, the beach house glowed with sunlight. White ribbons adorned the porch, the outdoor table laden with fresh seafood, wine, and desserts Sarah made. Megan busied herself arranging flowers, while Zoe beamed, holding a small gift for me. The atmosphere was warm, simple, exactly what I'd always craved. My mother, Elaine, came to my side, draping a shawl over my shoulders as the sea breeze picked up. "My girl," she said, her eyes gentle. "This past year, watching you change, I've felt both heartache and pride. I wish I'd been brave enough to protect you from your father sooner. But I know now, you've protected yourself." I took her frail hand, squeezing it. "You don't need to regret anymore, Mom. I know you've always quietly stood by me." Just then, William appeared, holding a large cake with a glowing candle. He grinned. "Happy 35th, sis. Oh, and big news. I signed a contract with a new company. No more living under Dad's shadow. I chose my own path." I hugged him tightly, my heart swelling. "William, I'm so proud. You found your freedom." He chuckled, whispering, "Thanks to you. Without your example, I wouldn't have dared step out." Then came the person I was most nervous about. My father. He arrived later than the others, but gone was the commanding figure of old. He wore a simple shirt, walked slowly, his face pensive. When our eyes met, I saw a faint smile, the one I'd longed for my whole childhood. No lectures, no judging looks. Throughout the party, he listened quietly as Sarah told stories, nodded at William's talk of his new job, even helped Mom with dishes. Each time he looked at me, he just smiled. No interruptions, no control. For the first time, I felt his unconditional acceptance. As the sun set, I stood raising my glass. Everyone quieted, their eyes on me. The sea's rhythm echoed like a heartbeat. "I want to thank everyone here today," I began, my voice trembling with emotion. "A year ago, I lost everything in one day. My job, my marriage, my family's acceptance. I thought I had nothing left to hold on to, but that fall gave me a chance to see what true strength is." I looked at Mom, William, Sarah, Megan, Zoe, and finally, my father. "I'm grateful for that fall. It gave me the chance to rise stronger and freer than ever." Applause mingled with the golden sunset. I saw my father's eyes glisten. He nodded slightly, a rare, warm smile breaking through. I knew, despite our fractured past, this moment marked true reconciliation. After the toast, we spilled onto the beach, lighting a small bonfire. Sarah played guitar, Megan sang off-key, and William chased waves. I sat near my father. We didn't talk much, just watched the flames. But in that silence, I heard what mattered most. He'd learned to step back, letting me live my life. My company, Wilson Strategic Communications, now has a team of 10, working with clients I once only dreamed of. Horizon Digital, where I advise, just signed a strategic deal with Preston and Shaw. But this time, I'm an equal partner, not someone kicked out. It's belated justice, earned through my relentless effort. As we gathered around the fire, I thought, this is true success, not titles or money, but the freedom to define happiness on my own terms. That night, as the moon rose, I walked to the water's edge. The breeze was salty, the sand cool underfoot. I remembered who I was a year ago. Lost, broken, thinking the world had ended. Then I looked at who I am now. Scarred but stronger. I believe everyone has their dark Monday, a day when everything collapses at once. But if you're brave enough to stand, you'll see, a fall is just the start of a triumph. Maybe looking back on this journey, I realize life sometimes forces us through profound loss to find our true strength. I lost my job, marriage, and family's trust in a single day. But that collapse taught me to stand, to set boundaries, and most importantly, to live a life I define. The greatest lesson I've learned is this: success isn't in titles or others' approval, but in inner freedom, in the ability to love and respect yourself. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about giving others and yourself a chance to grow. And true happiness comes when you let go of control to live each moment fully. If my story has touched you, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe to join me on more human journeys ahead. Because who knows, your story might inspire someone else too.